Hello and welcome back to another episode of our Bonedo Vintage Tour. Today's topic is all about Premier Resonator drum kits. Premier Resonator kits first appeared in the Premier catalog in the mid-70s, then built as the Kenny Clare Resonator outfit, named after the famous drummer Kenny Clare, who, in fact, played one of the very first Resonator kits out there. The special thing with Premier Resonator kits is that shell in the shell principle, which basically means that you have a very thin birch liner inside of the drum, which acts as a resonant chamber. Configuration wise, that set here consists of a 12 by 10 tom, a 13 by 11 tom, a 16 by 15 stand tom, 22 by 16 inch bass drum, and a 14 by 6.5 inch snare drum. Head-wise, we do use Evans G2 on the toms and Evans G1 on the resonant side of the toms. Bass drum is equipped with an Evans EMAT. The snare is equipped with an old Remo controlled sound clear head and the old Premier stock resonant head. Cymbal-wise, again, we do use Pies the Big Beat cymbals in the sizes of 18, 19, 20, 22 and a 15-inch hi-hat. Our kit here is made out of birchwood with beech reinforcement rings, and on the reinforcement rings the inner liner, the inner thin birch liner is applied, which leads to that gap between the outer wall and the inner wall, which Premier used to call the sound chamber. So what you basically get is a double shelled drum kit. You can easily remove those liners, and then you do have a regular drum shell, as you are used to have it on all your kits, and you can easily get the birch liner back inside to get that resonator principle and the typical resonator sound back again. Quality wise, as it's always the case with Premier, it's state of the art and actually very good, excellent, to be honest. The toms are all equipped with die-cast tubes, and the hardware itself is very robust. The snare drum here has the very famous flow beam parallel mechanism unit, and also has the so-called Premier stress rings. Those are actually no die-cast tubes. It's made out of aluminum, chromed aluminum. It's probably nowadays quite rare to obtain a drum with massive hoops made out of one single piece of material. So as one can see, Premier tried to get the best out of their things back then and were definitely at the top of their game. Yeah, you probably may notice the odd color of that kit here. That kit here was built in the late 80s and the finish is called Twisted Pink. That's not a repaint job, actually. Premier built those kits in very, very small quantities. They were not even showed in the catalog, I guess. I think there was an extra flyer around back in the late 80s where they, yeah, more or less advertised those kits. As I said before, the finish is called Twisted Pink. Quite rare, there are only a few of those around. The name Twisted Pink comes from the band Twisted Sister. And I think that drummer was called, I think, Thumi Price. And he worked closely, he was a Premier endorsee, and he worked very, very closely with Premier. And yeah, he wanted a pink kit. So Premier came up with that finish and then they simply called it, yeah, Twisted Pink. The drum set is called Resonator. That name is probably a bit misleading as the sound of that particular kit here is not particularly resonant. It's more a, I would say, concrete sounding drum kit. It has the typical Premier sound, which I always refer to as British, which means it's a bit more timpani sounding and a bit rougher sounding, but actually not that resonant. It's a very, very cutting sound. It projects quite well, but it has still a certain warmth in the sound. So I would consider this kit here as definitely a kit for rock and pop music. If you want a kit that's a bit more resonant and has a tad more sustain, one has the option to remove the Resonator inner liners. And what you then basically get then is a regular Premier kit, and then you will definitely get more sustain out of it, if you want that. Price-wise, with that kit here, it's a bit difficult. As I mentioned before, that finish here, especially with the snare drum, is very, very rare. That's a 14x6.5 snare drum. I mentioned that before. I also saw one a few years ago in a 14x8 size, actually. And yeah, to determine the price is actually a bit more difficult here. But you can find regular resonators on the used market. With regular, I mean regular colored resonator sets in black or white or brown or whatever for around, yeah, €1,000 nowadays on the used market. They used to be a tad cheaper in the last years. However, prices started to increase and yeah, they are not that cheap anymore as they used to be. In my opinion, they're worth every single cent that you spend on them because for that amount of money you definitely get a truly excellent build kit and an excellent sounding kit, which you can also take on the road if you want to. Okay, that's it for today, for our little pink edition we had today. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, because yeah, we're going to shoot another couple of episodes of our little vintage tour in the near future. So until then, see you next time. Bye bye.